So what I did was an affidavit of life, and this is what it says. I, Anthony, of the family of, being over age of 18 years, competent to witness, does state for the record the following. Number one, that the public record on file with the Office of the Vital Records of the State of New York, located at P.O. Box 2602, Albany, New York, 12220-2602, evidences that the entity, the name Anthony Rubio, came into existence appearing simultaneously upon taking my first breath on planet Earth on the third day of the month of whatever in the year of where said entity, person, registered organization was sent to me intentionally for my authorized and exclusive use, and number two, that as of the date of this affidavit of life, I am still alive and breathing, and number three, since the blank day of the month of whatever in the year of, again, the date of birth, 18 years after the date of birth, it is not now, nor was it ever my intent, desire, or will to surrender or abandon any claim of life, nor any claim of my unalienable rights or natural estate, to include but not limited to the name. And so what I'm basically saying there is it's never been my intent or desire to give up any of my natural inherent rights which the Creator gives to each one of us. And potentially the estate or the fiction, again, I'm not inclined to go there, but I want to leave the door open. Number four, that the attached copy of the birth instrument titled Record for Anthony Rubio, Corpus Juris Secundum Sesticade by Trust Act 1666 and statutes at large are exhibits to this affidavit, are considered as points and authorities of law. And number five, and I just basically copied this part from Boris directly because he had this in one of his areas on his website, and it just said it much better than I could, but it's the overall intent about not using United States Code but using the statutes at large. Number five, for the record, it is declared that those statutes at large, commonly referred to collectively as 12 U.S.C. 95A, parentheses, War Risk Insurance Act of 1914, parentheses, 38 Stat 711, comma, 40 Stat 398, comma, 41 Stat 371, comma, Bank Conversion Act of 1933, 48 Stat 1, comma, 112 through 113, and parentheses, comma, Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917, 40 Stat 411, comma, 415 Stat 4 through 418, and First War Power Act of 1941, 55 Stat 838, 839, are hereby accepted as public policy remedy for the breach of the social contract known and described as Constitution for the United States of America, 1789, via the removal of gold, silver, and title from public circulation, of which impairs obligations of contract, and of which constitutes violation of the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, ratified pursuant to 12 U.S.C. 95B, parentheses, March 9th, 1933, Chapters 1, Title 1, Section 1, 48 Stat 1, of which stands accepted as treaty, with people and in accordance with the constitutions. Treaties are law of the land pursuant to Article 5, Section 2, with 1 U.S.C. Section 112, in support and as amendment, in support of such, and as Amendment 14 guarantees equally under the law for equality under the law is paramount and mandatory by law. Those acts of Congress commonly known and described as 18 U.S.C. Section 241, 242 are accepted for honor in support of such pursuant to Section 5 of Amendment 14 and 6. It is my desire and will to surrender and deliver in honor and good faith any potential presumptive claim or potential future interest, in parentheses, reversionary, of said entity, Anthony Rubio, to give equity in order to obtain equity to and for the account of the United States as usufructuary, where I acknowledge, accept, and agree what has taken place as stated above under 12 U.S.C. 95A in the contractual obligation of the United States to the person I use, Anthony Rubio, by and through the following. And I quote the end of the Declaration of Independence. Quoting, and for the support of this declaration, with the firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, end quote, Declaration of Independence. Agree to, in good faith, in honor, on this 5th day of January in the year 2016, I wrote by Anthony, blah, 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 and then I had 3 witnesses sign this. We, the undersigned witnesses, do hereby certify that the user of the name, Anthony Rubio, is personally known to me to be the same man who subscribed to the following instrument, presented himself before me this day, and acknowledged that he has read and signed said instrument, and that the statements herein contained and each thereof are true on this 5th day of January 2016. They signed. I did not get this notarized, and at the end I put a scripture which looks like it's been cut off. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth, at the mouth of 2 witnesses, and I think that's out of Deuteronomy, but it got cut off. I usually put that when I have 3 people signing it, so it's done as whatever, it's secured. And then I attached the Corpus Juris Secundum, Volume 33. Let's see where we have that quoted. The Section 16, Jurisdictional Requisites, Fact of Death, quoting, the death of a person on whose estate administration is sought is a jurisdictional requisite, while the presumption of death arising from absence may present a prima facie case sufficient to warrant a grant of administration. If it is subsequently develops that such person is in fact alive, the administration is void. What is that saying? Again, civilly they presume you are dead. Therefore, they, under admiralty, they quote unquote, you came in, you were birthed at the dock door, birth, B-E-R-T-H, at the dock door. I can't remember everything now. And then they ship you out, because obviously they can't deal with a man or a woman. They must deal with a fiction, as their own jurisdiction requires them to. And what happens if you return alive and you say, hey, I'm alive, they should do something about it. Well, that's what I was trying to do with this probate judge. Obviously, he was not impressed. And then, of course, when you intermeddle in the infant's estate, you shall be held accountable. And when you get, remember, the 1099 or W-2 at the end of the year, something is happening, some transactions or accounting is happening within that estate, so somebody has to account for it. So guess what? You say, I'm that person, you get to account for it. And then I threw in the copy of the Sestakay Vi Act of 1666. Let's see what was on this one that took my attention. Sestakay Vi remaining beyond sea for 7 years together and no proof of their lives, judge in action to direct verdict as though Sestakay Vi were dead. Going on, if the supposed dead man proved to be alive, then the title is revested. Action for mean profits with interest. And then I go on to the statutes at large. 62 Stat 685. Obligations or other security of the United States defined. The term obligation or other security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes. And again, that's an important thing to remember, that the quote-unquote U.S. currency, U.S. funds, or money, as we commonly refer to, is obligations of the Federal Reserve of the United States. Federal Reserve notes, by definition, are obligations of the United States. Under 38 Stat 265, what did I mark here? Section 16, it says Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Federal Reserve Board for the purpose of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents are hereinafter set forth and for no other purpose are hereby authorized. The said notes shall be obligations of the United States and shall be receivable by all national and member banks and Federal Reserve banks and for all taxes, customs, and other public dues. They shall be redeemed in gold on demand at the Treasury Department of the United States in the City of Washington, District of Columbia, or in gold or lawful money at any reserve bank. So of course you realize you can't go to the Federal Reserve and get gold. So you have to do that disclaimer. And the disclaimer I happen to use, again, this somebody had suggested, and I use this because it makes sense. Lawful money and full discharge is demanded for all transactions per 12 U.S.C. 95A and 411, and 12 U.S.C. 411. Again, the banks ignore it. It's always ignored. I don't get why, but it is. I attached 38 Stat 711, Section 2, that the said Bureau of War Risk Insurance, subject to the general direction of the Secretary of the Treasury, shall, as soon as practical, make provisions for the insurance by the United States of America, American vessels, their freight and passage monies and cargoes shipped or to be shipped therein against loss or damage by the risks of war, whenever it shall appear to the Secretary that American vessels, shippers, or importers in the American vessels are unable in any trade to secure adequate war risk insurance on reasonable terms. Moving on, 40 Stat 398. Let's see what I had to mark on here. I don't see what I marked. It's going on there that there is established in the Treasury Department a bureau to be known as the Bureau of War Risk Insurance, and the director shall receive a blah blah blah. Let's see if that was anything else I had to do. 41 Stat 371. It's going over the war insurance risk. Section 4, the Section 22 of the War Risk Insurance Act is hereby amended by inserting therein immediately following subsection blah blah blah. The terms father and mother include stepfathers and stepmothers, fathers and mothers through adoption, and persons who have stood in local parentis to a member of the military or naval. If any person is entitled to receive payments under this act shall be an inmate. No, that's going beyond. 48 Stat 1. Letter B. During times of war, during any other period of national emergency declared by the President may, through any agency that he may designate or otherwise, again, it's the 12 U.S.C. 95B. I'm sorry, A, 12 U.S.C. 95A. 48 Stat 112. Resolution. Whereas the holding of or dealing in gold affect the public interest and they're therefore subject to proper regulation and restriction. And whereas the existing emergency has disclosed that provisions of obligations which purport to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency of the United States or in the amount of money of the United States, thereby obstruct the power of Congress to regulate the value of the money of the United States. So you figured out what that is, even though there was not an amendment to the Constitution to remove the gold and silver. 48 Stat 113. Every provision contained with respect to any obligation reports to give obligee a right to require payment of gold or a particular kind of coin or currency or in the amount of money of the United States measured thereby is declared to be against public policy. Excellent, excellent, excellent. It's against, remember, they had law, then they once declared national state of emergency went in, it's public policy statutes. It's no longer public law. It's a policy. Excellent. 40 Stat 411. Government nation. Again, quickly reading this, I don't remember, I did this quite a while ago. It looks to me that the words ally or enemy now includes any individual, partnership, or other person or other body of individuals, inclusive of the U.S. citizen. Because you have to remember back in 1917 when they did that, they excluded citizens. Now it looks like they want to include citizens, U.S. citizens, as enemies of the state. 40 Stat 415. Again, B, that the President may investigate, regulate, prohibit, blah, blah, blah. Again, 12 U.S.C. 95A. The President is authorized. Continuing on, that the President is authorized to appoint, prescribe the duties of, and fix a salary not to exceed, blah, 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 an official to be known as the alien property custodian, who shall be empowered to receive all money and property in the United States due or belonging to an enemy or an ally of the enemy, which may be paid, conveyed, transferred, assigned, or delivered to said custodian under the provisions of this act, and to hold, administer, an account of blah, blah, blah. You get all this. 40 Stat 416. It's just a continuation.